Imagine you're standing on a beach, right? You scoop up a handful of ocean water, and you actually believe that it's salty, not because of, you know, dissolved minerals or science.
Right, because of something way heavier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You believe it's literally filled with the sweat and tears of the oppressed working class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so every time you taste the sea, you're tasting this, like, monument to human suffering and resilience, really.
Which is such a wild way to look at the world.
It is, but that is exactly how the ancient Vietnamese understood their environment. I mean, before smartphones, before weather satellites, or modern laws, the world was just this incredibly chaotic and, frankly, terrifying place.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you could be living a perfectly normal life, and then suddenly a flood just wipes out your entire village.
Yeah, and the cruel and powerful people always seem to thrive, right? While the innocent just suffered. So, to make sense of all that chaos, our ancestors didn't have science to fall back on. They used narrative.
They basically engineered a framework around the chaos because, when you can't control the environment, you create a story to at least try to understand it.
Right, to give it meaning.
Exactly. Giving a violent storm or a crushing famine some sort of human motive, well, it makes the unpredictable feel intentional. It gives you a way to negotiate with the universe in a way.
And that brings us to the focus of today's deep dive. We are unpacking a really fascinating translated collection of 17 traditional Vietnamese fairy tales and legends.
Compiled by the author Bong Con.
Yeah. And our mission for you today, listening to this, is to look at these stories not just as like bedtime entertainment, but as the underlying operating system of an entire culture.
Right. We're getting into the DNA here.
We really are. We're going to explore how these tales functioned as early science and how they enforce this system of karmic justice that honestly makes modern fairy tales look incredibly tame.
Oh, they do. They really do.
And we'll see how they navigated the just devastating complexities of the human heart.
Okay.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to understand that operating system, you kind of have to start with survival. Because before any society can sit around debating morality or philosophy, it has to survive the physical world.
Yeah, geography is destiny, right?
Exactly. And these origin myths do exactly that. They take the terrifying reality of weather and nature and shrink it down to a human scale.
So let's take the annual monsoon season as an example. If you live in Vietnam, July and August bring these intense, just devastating rains and massive flooding.
Right. It's an undeniable force of nature.
But the story of Sun Tin and Thu Si Tin explains this terrifying event as an epic, never-ending romantic rivalry.
Which is such a human way to frame it.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you have a king who's trying to marry off his daughter, and two incredibly powerful lords show up. You got Sun Tin, the mountain god, and Thu Si Tin, the water god.
Talk about a heavy-hitting suitor lineup.
Right. And the king basically decrees that whoever brings the wedding gifts first gets to win the bride.
And Sun Tin simply gets there first. He shows up with, elephants and horses and gold, and he claims the princess.
Leaving the water god in the dust.
Yeah, Thu Si Tin shows up late with his pearls and coral and giant sea creatures and finds out he lost.
And he just completely loses his mind. I mean, he unleashes the oceans, summoning these massive typhoons to flood the land and take the princess back.
But the mountain god just magically raises the mountains higher and higher. So the water rises, the mountains rise.
It's just an arms race.
Exactly. Eventually, the water god retreats, but every single year he comes back to try again. And that endless, petty jealousy, that is your monsoon.
Notice the mechanism there, though. It isn't just about explaining why it rains. It's about making the destruction feel less random.
Right, because if a flood is just a weather pattern, you are just a helpless victim of physics.
Yeah, but if a flood is a spurned god throwing a massive tantrum, the world suddenly has a recognizable psychology. You might not be able to stop it, but you can at least comprehend it.
And you see that exact same psychological mechanism applied to human hardship.
Let's go back to that idea of the salty ocean I mentioned in the intro. The Tale of Salty Sea features this poor, really honest fisherman named Bien and his wife Hien.
And they are just relentlessly oppressed by this cruel Lord Chuadat.
Yeah, the guy is awful. When the Lord tries to actually steal Hien, the couple asks to just share one last drink of seawater together. And the sea god recognizes the endless sweat and tears that Bien has shed into the water through, a lifetime of brutal labor.
So when the cruel lord and his soldiers mockingly taste the water themselves, finding it incredibly bitter and salty.
The sea itself basically rises up in a massive wave and swallows them whole. It's like this giant watery monument to the working class.
Leaving the fisherman and his wife safe on the shore, of course.
Right. But did these origin myths serve primarily as comfort, like to give meaning to random cruel hardships like poverty or getting oppressed?
Oh, absolutely. Think about what that implies for the listener back then. When the physical world absorbs your pain to the point that the ocean itself turns salty, nature is literally on your side.
It remembers your suffering.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It transforms this terrifyingly random universe into a deeply moral landscape.
It's a huge comfort. And these stories don't just immortalize suffering, right? They immortalize devotion, too. Just look at how they explain local plants and animals.
The flora and fauna myths are beautiful.
Yeah, like the legend of the coconut tree. It uses physical transformation to capture grief. You have a gentle girl weeping by her mother's grave while facing down a cruel landlord, and she literally dies of sorrow.
And from her body grows the very first coconut tree.
Yeah. Its leaves are her flowing hair, and the sweet water inside is her pure heart.
You see, biology rooted in love with the tail of the horseshoe crab, too. So a wife gets a magical glowing pearl from the tree god, right? And she uses it to fly across the ocean to find her lost husband.
But magic always has rules.
Always. The one rule here is she has to keep the pearl in her mouth and absolutely not speak. But as they're flying back together, she is just so overwhelmed with joy at finding him that she tries to talk.
Oh no. So the pearl drops.
The pearl drops. They fall from the sky, but right before hitting the water, they transform into horseshoe crabs.
Which perfectly explains why horseshoe crabs always travel in pairs in nature, with the male clinging to the female. They're literally immortalizing an embrace.
It's so poetic, and even abstract concepts like social harmony, they require this kind of origin story too.
Oh, like the tale of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Where the colors actually bicker over superiority.
Yeah, red claims it's the most important because it's the color of blood and courage, while violet claims wisdom. And it takes a terrifying storm for the rain to step in and basically force the colors to hold hands across the sky.
Order out of chaos. And you even see human invention stepping in to create that order, like in the story of Bon Chung and Bon Dewey.
The sticky rice cakes.
Right. A king wants a special New Year's dish to determine which prince gets to inherit the throne. The older princes go out and hunt exotic animals and deep-sea fish.
Flexing their wealth, basically.
Exactly. But the youngest prince, Tiet Lu, who just lives a simple farming life, he uses everyday sticky rice, green beans, and pork. He makes a round cake to represent the sky and a square cake for the earth.
And he wins the throne because he honored the actual foundation of the people's lives, which was agriculture.
That reverence for agriculture actually marks a critical turning point in how we should understand this culture's folklore.
Right, because once you explain the rain and the sea and the harvest, well, you've established the physical world. But people don't just live in nature.
They live in communities.
Exactly. You need rules to govern behavior. How do you ensure your neighbors don't just steal your harvest?
You invent karmic justice. And let me tell you, the moral rules in these Vietnamese folktales are absolutely unyielding. Karmic justice here doesn't work like some, slow cosmic courtroom.
No, it works like gravity.
Yes. Good and evil have an immediate, literal, physical weight.
The tale of the carambola tree illustrates that gravity perfectly. So, two brothers inherit their father's land.
And one is awful, naturally.
Naturally. The greedy elder brother, Teo, takes everything, leaving the kind younger brother, T, with only a tiny hut and a carambola tree, a starfruit tree.
Right.
When a giant magical bird comes to eat the fruit, it promises to pay the younger brother in gold. It tells him to bring a small bag, flies him to a magical island, and the brother just takes a modest amount and he thrives.
But the greedy brother sees this, forces a trade to get the tree, and waits for the bird. And of course, he brings a massive, oversized sack.
He stuffs it with so much gold and jewels from the island that the giant bird can barely even take off.
And while flying back over the roaring sea, the exhausted bird loses its strength and drops him. The sheer weight of the gold drags him instantly to the bottom of the ocean.
What's fascinating here is that greed is treated as a literal burden that pulls you down to your death, while kindness is an active investment that lifts you up.
Okay, but I have to stop you here, because sometimes that justice goes from, poetic gravity to sheer terror.
Oh, you're talking about the Cinderella variant.
Yes. The story of Tom and Cam. It starts off exactly like a recognizable Cinderella story. Tom is the kind, abused stepdaughter. Cam is the lazy, favored stepsister.
Right. And the Buddha helps Tum by giving her a magical goby fish for comfort, and later provides sparrows to sort rice so she can attend a royal festival.
She loses a shoe, the king finds it, it fits perfectly, and she becomes queen. Now, in the Western tradition, the story ends right there with a nice wedding.
But in this tradition, the wedding is really just the prologue to a cycle of relentless betrayal and resurrection.
It is wild. The stepmother and the stepsister trick Tom into climbing a tree. They chop it down and murder her. Cam takes her place as queen.
But Tum's spirit doesn't give up. It turns into a golden bird.
And the stepsister kills the bird. So Tum turns into trees. The stepsister chops them down and builds a loom. The loom literally threatens the stepsister, so she burns it.
It's relentless. Tum turns into a fragrant fruit, gets found by an old woman, and eventually magically returns to her human form to reunite with the king.
Wait, time out. She reunites with the king, yes. But then she tricks her stepsister into boiling water, kills her, turns her body into fish sauce, and feeds it to the wicked stepmother.
Yeah, that's the ending.
The stepmother eats it every day until a crow warns her she's eating her own daughter. She finds the skull in the jar and drops dead of horror. I mean, that makes the Brothers Grimm look like a Disney movie.
It really does.
How did a culture that values communal harmony invent something so purely vindictive? And just to be clear to the listener, we are just reporting on the source material here.
Of course. And look, it is intensely dark to a modern listener, but think about how we view betrayal today versus how an ancient village viewed it.
Right.
Today, if someone wrongs you, you just cut them out of your life. But in a historical agrarian society, survival depends entirely on communal trust. You survive a flood or a famine by sharing the harvest.
So a betrayal isn't just drama.
No, a betrayal, especially within a family, isn't just a personal insult. It is a lethal threat to the whole social fabric.
So the punishment has to be total.
Exactly. Evil cannot just be forgiven and left to linger in the community. It must be eradicated to its very roots. You see this absolute demand for loyalty everywhere in these stories.
You really do. Like in Taksan and Lithong. Taksan is this pure-hearted hero who slays monsters, including a giant python.
But his sworn brother, Lithong, repeatedly steals the glory. He traps him in a cave and leaves him for dead to claim the royal reward.
Yeah, and it's only when Taksan plays a magical lute from prison that the music itself reveals the truth to the kingdom, and the traitor gets punished.
Consider the story of Thien and Ea, which explores the betrayal of friendship for status. Ea sells everything he owns just to support his friend Thien's studies.
Right. And Thien passes his exams and becomes a mandarin-like, a powerful government official. But instead of repaying his friend, he throws Ea out on the street.
The Buddha intervenes, naturally, and gives Ea a magic wife who builds him a massive fortune.
And Thien gets jealous, demands to trade his mandarin position for Ea's wife and house. But the moment the trade is made, the magic just vanishes.
The treacherous friend is left with a small dirt hut. You reap what you sow.
And what's wild is that the only characters who never succumb to greed are the animals.
The contrast between animal purity and human corruption is a huge theme in these texts. Animals represent this uncorrupted natural order.
Yeah, and a dog, a cat, and a poor young man, a guy named Q, yet spends all his money saving a dog, a cat, and a water snake from slaughter instead of trading goods.
And the snake turns out to be the Dragon King's son, who rewards him with a magical pearl.
But when a greedy human jeweler steals the pearl, the dog and cat don't just sit around. They devise this elaborate heist, teaming up with a mouse king and a fish to get it back. Their loyalty is just fierce.
Even human outcasts are elevated to show this purity. Take the story of Satdua, a boy born as just a round coconut shell with no arms or legs.
Which is such a striking image.
Very. He is mocked by society, but he herds cows perfectly. A rich landlord's youngest daughter sees past his appearance and discovers he's actually a handsome magical scholar.
She marries him, but her jealous older sisters try to murder her by pushing her to a shark.
But her husband's foresight and her own resilience save her. The cruel sisters are so ashamed when she returns alive that they banish themselves.
It's a completely airtight moral system. The good are rewarded, the greedy are drowned by their own weight, the traitors are eradicated. But what happens when the human heart gets involved?
Right, because emotions do not care about karmic rules.
Exactly.
That is where the folklore truly matures, I think. We move from these black and white moral absolutes into the gray areas of love, duty, and guilt. The tales become surprisingly complex, acknowledging that sometimes the rules just fail us.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The story of Mo Chao and Trong Thosi is a perfect example of this.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy of weaponized innocence.
Mo Chao is the princess of O Lak, an ancient Vietnamese kingdom.
Right. Her father possesses a magical crossbow that makes their kingdom invincible. And she marries Trong Thosi, a prince from a rival kingdom. But her husband is actually a spy.
He manipulates her deepest affections. He asks about her kingdom's secret defense. She naively shows him the magical crossbow, and he swaps the magical trigger for a fake one.
Then he makes up a political excuse to return to his father.
And Ma Chao, completely trusting him, says, "If war breaks out, I will scatter goose feathers from my robe so you can find me."
Which is so heartbreaking, because her father's kingdom inevitably falls to her husband's invading army. As she and her father flee on horseback, she drops the feathers.
Then the golden turtle god appears and tells her father, "The enemy is the traitor sitting right behind you."
Her father realizes she leaked the secret and strikes his own daughter down.
It's a complete departure from the clean justice we saw earlier. Trungthosi follows the trail of feathers, finds his wife dead, and is so consumed by guilt that he drowns himself in a well.
So the spy dies. The karma is technically fulfilled, but nobody wins. It's just this devastating look at how politics can destroy innocent love.
You also see the universe actively punishing love that disrupts the social order, like in the tale of Nu Lang and Chik Nu.
Right, the classic star-crossed lovers. A moral cowherd who is aided by this magical old cow and a heavenly weaver fairy. They fall in love and start a family.
But the heavens are furious at this mixing of realms. They separate them with the Milky Way.
They are left to just stand on opposite sides of the stars and weep until a bridge of magpies allows them to reunite for just one day a year.
Conversely, you have Chu Ung Tu and Tien Dung, where love defies everything and actually wins, but at the cost of leaving society entirely.
Yeah, a royal princess decides to marry a fisherman so profoundly poor he literally owns one loincloth and has to hide buried in the sand.
But they reject worldly wealth, achieve spiritual enlightenment, and build a magical citadel together.
And when her furious father sends an army to crush them, their entire citadel simply flies into heaven to avoid the war.
It's beautiful. But, we also see very grounded human tests of love, like in A Good Woman Taught Her Husband.
Oh, yes. Hien is divorced by her foolish gambling husband, so she secretly builds a fortune on her own and encounters him years later as a beggar.
She anonymously employs him and tests him until he repents, finally revealing her identity at an ancestral altar.
But the stories that really mess with my head, the ones that feel shockingly modern, are the ones about marriage and divided loyalty.
You're thinking of the woman who had two husbands.
Yes. Okay, so Han is married to a poor scholar, Do Ham. He contracts leprosy. She cares for him relentlessly, selling everything she owns to buy medicine.
He feels immense guilt for dragging her down, so he runs away to free her.
Right. And after 3 years, assuming he has died, she marries a man named Nguyen.
And Nguyen is, by all accounts, a wonderful husband. He is kind, he becomes a mandarin, they have twin sons together. She builds a perfect, stable life.
Right. But years later, Dupam shows up at their gate as a starving beggar during a famine. Han recognizes him. She secretly houses him in their garden to feed him.
Then one night, Dufam accidentally drinks from a well that contains a dead snake, which miraculously cures his leprosy.
Which is wild on its own. He begins studying again, passes his exams, and becomes a mandarin himself. And then, Han writes a letter to her good husband Nguyen, takes one of their twin sons, and leaves to go back to her first husband.
This is the story that always gives readers pause.
I'm really struggling with it.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't this incredibly unfair to the second husband, Du Nguyen? He did everything right. He provided for her, he loved her, they had a family.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Why does her loyalty to the first husband completely override the goodness of the second? Feels like an immense betrayal of Nguyen. And again, to the listener, we aren't picking sides here, just looking at the text, but wow.
It does feel unfair to our modern sensibilities. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, these final stories are what elevate the entire collection.
How so?
They demonstrate that this folklore isn't just about simplistic magic, it wrestles with impossible human situations. In that culture, the original vow, the very first bond of marriage, held a sacred, unbreakable weight.
But Dufam left her.
He didn't leave because he stopped loving her, though. He left because he loved her and wanted to save her from his illness.
Ah, I see.
Her return to him honors a profound, interrupted loyalty. The story recognizes the inescapable tragedy of the human condition, that sometimes destiny forces you into a corner where no outcome is clean.
Right.
To heal one broken heart, she had to break another. There is no easy answer, and the folklore is brave enough to leave us sitting with that intense discomfort.
Wow. That is heavy. But it's also incredibly real. It doesn't insult your intelligence with a neat bow at the end.
No, it doesn't.
So let's recap the journey we've taken through these sources today. We started with people making sense of monsoons and salty oceans just to survive the sheer terror of the physical elements.
Then we moved into the unforgiving gravity of karmic justice giant birds and brutal punishments to figure out how to survive each other in a fragile community.
And we ended with the heartbreaking complexities of divided loyalty and impossible choices.
For you, the listener, the ultimate takeaway is this. If you truly want to understand a culture, you shouldn't just look at its history books or its politics.
Right.
You must look at the stories it tells in the dark. These 17 tales are a blueprint of the Vietnamese soul. They reveal a deep reverence for nature, an uncompromising demand for social trust, and a profound empathy for the messiness of being human.
It brings us right back to where we started. The world is chaotic, and stories are the framework we build to survive it.
Absolutely.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Our modern scientific world has stripped the magic away from our daily lives. We know exactly how our weather works, how our smartphones function, how the internet connects us.
But the frustrations are still there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you had to invent a folk myth to explain a modern frustration like a dropped Wi-Fi signal or a massive traffic jam, what would it be? What kind of karmic justice would you invent for the people you interact with every day?
That's a great question.
Because the truth is, we are still trying to make sense of the chaos. We just changed the props. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep looking for the stories behind the science, and we'll catch you next time.